ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਮੈਂ ਪਵਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਮਾਈ ਟੀਵੀ ਦੇ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਤੋਂ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਮਾਈ ਸ਼ੋ ਮਾਈ ਲਾਈਫ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਹਾਂ। ਹਰ ਹਫਤੇ ਦੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇਸ ਹਫਤੇ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਤੇ ਲਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਹੈ ਮਹਿਤਾਬ ਸਿੰਘ। He is a young spirit. He is out of state. He lives in Pennsylvania. And he's a great person. I actually had the chance to meet him at events that advocate for Sikh rights and to recognize that Indian government committed genocide of the Sikhs back in 1984. Without going any further, I would like you to go ahead and introduce Sardar Mehtab Singh. Mehtab Singh ji, Waheguru ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru ji ki Fateh.
Hanji, Waheguru ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru ji ki Fateh ji. Pavan Singh ji, thank you for having me on today. It's a great initiative that you have taken, so I greatly appreciate you bringing me on today.
Well, trust me, you know, the whole MYTV team actually commends that you took the time out to share your views with us and with our viewers. We would like to go ahead and discuss youth and politics. We did have, even the previous week, we did the interview with a young politician from the Washington metropolitan area, and it's really great when I see young people actually, you know, feeling their views with the world and telling about the philosophy of Guru Nanak Pacha and the philosophy of American Constitution and principles and the founding fathers, and then what happens when you mix both of them, because we are Sikhs living in America and we do abide by both I would say the rules and regulations of the Sikh religion and the American Constitution at the same time. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Were you born in the U.S.? Where were you raised? Where did you go to college? What did you study? And most importantly, what do you do as a full-time employee these days?
Well, you know, my name is Mehtab Singh, and I was born and raised in New York, which is seen as a melting pot, you know, if you look at the United States, there's a lot of different parts of people that are from all walks of life that live in New York.
Right.
And I currently live in Pennsylvania, and I do market research for Sherwin-Williams. For school, I had gone off to Hofstra University, which is actually known for hosting a decent amount of presidential debates over the years. And in 2012, when I was a freshman, the debate between Mitt Romney and Obama focused on trade with China, foreign policy, which actually helped me choose my major, which was international business with an economics minor. So it was a turning point in my life, you know, freshman year, whenever that presidential debate was hosted at Hofstra University, which in essence helped me, you know, get involved with my community and get involved with politics. So that was a great thing for me when I look back at it now.
Needless to say, I must, you know, ask, so you took Econ 101, the basics of macro and microeconomics?
Yes.
Okay, that's good, because we need diverse people, diverse Sikhs, sharing their views on the political stage as well here in the mainstream American community. Would you consider yourself a Sikh activist?
Well, it's funny enough, because if you really go up the definition, then yes, I would consider myself a Sikh activist. And the reason why I say that is because people within the Sikh community and even around the globe have given the word such a radical connotation, right? In our community, if you are pro-Sikh in many parts, if you preach about a sovereign nation, if you're being bold in what you believe in, then many do not perceive you as an activist. They perceive you as an extremist of some sort, right? When being an activist is actually not that.
Well, then define activism in your own terms. What is activism to you?
Well, activist is someone that is trying to enact some sort of political change or social change.
Okay.
But it is always within the boundaries of our democracy and our Constitution, which is obviously freedom of speech,
right,
freedom of press, freedom of religion. As a Sikh, you know, we are taught from a very small age to stand up against injustice. You know, लड़ाई सिखाती हमेशा बेइंसाफी के खिलाफ रही है.
Right.
That is what a Sikh is. Someone who stands up for injustice regardless of if you are in the minority. So if people are willing to call somebody that is willing to stand up for your rights as an extremist, by no means, you know, you can't really change the way that they view things, but, you know.
Well, everyone is entitled to their opinion, and if someone wants to define activism as extremism, then that's their problem. Then they need to do research on their own. But from what you just told me, my understanding is you would define activism as peaceful advocacy.
Right.
Okay.
Within the boundaries of our democracy and our Constitution, because here in the United States, you know, obviously in other places, even in India, if you're very vocal about things that you preach, and even though they consider themselves the largest democracy in the world, there's a lot of repercussions for trying to preach something that you are wholeheartedly, something that you believe in. So in the Western Hemisphere, it's not like that.
Right.
You know, if you believe in something and you're bold about something, that is somebody who what an activist is. You know, you stand up for what you believe in, and honestly, that's what that's what it's off of. It's always, regardless if it's for your own people, if it's for other people, always stand up for a be'insaf. You always stand up for injustice. So
right. Well, a wise man once said, you know, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. But the topic of our tonight's show is going to be Sikh youth and politics here in the U.S., here in North America. But without going any further into details, I would like to go ahead and take a short break.
Okay.
Broker of Sky Realty. The reason we are so successful because clients trust us. I've been doing this my whole life. My team is my wife, my office manager, and my agents. We look forward to earn your business, and we do speak your language. Thank you.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome back to the show, viewers. We'll continue our chat for tonight with Mehtab Singh from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He's a young Sikh man who is looking for his place in this world, also in the political field. Mehtab Singh, I would like to go ahead and ask you, where do you see yourself on the political spectrum? I hate to put labels on people, but if you were to consider yourself a liberal, a centrist, or a conservative?
Well, you know, that's a very good question, and simply why I say that, for the longest I was unsure. When I was in school, my political science teacher, who was very liberal, very left on the spectrum, got my attention, and for the longest I was on the left side of the spectrum.
Okay.
As I started to do my own research, I started to find myself sliding to the right. So I would say, you know, I'm fairly in the middle as a centrist, but maybe leaning a little bit more right simply for the fact that there are certain issues I emphasize more importance on. And I guess, let's say, for example, smaller government.
Okay.
Government spending, in my view, has been inefficient. You know, smaller government is better.
Right. Absolutely.
The more government spends, intervenes in others' lives, the more it actually hurts the economy.
Right. Well, on the social aspect where you said it interferes in our personal lives, you know, we get that. But also on the fiscal side, on the economic side, if we have a larger government, that means we need more revenue. And the taxpayers, are government's cash cows.
Right.
We pay the taxes, and that's how the government runs. So if it's a bigger machine, that means we need to work harder. That means we pay more in taxes. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think our founding fathers wanted to see that.
Right. More, like I said, more government intervention has only hurt the economy.
Correct.
And, you know, as Sikhs, obviously, if you really look at who we are as Sikhs and stuff like that, we are supposed to give back to the community as well, which I understand. However, I feel as if there's a difference between the government telling you how you should be spending your money,
Yes.
and how a person that you are that is making the money,
Correct.
how you distribute your cash is up to you.
Right.
You know, how
Right.
you want to give back to the community is up to you. The government shouldn't be the one telling you how you spend your money, where the money should be allocated. Because if you've seen over the years, I mean, even different topics, you know, it's very a blurred line on how the government has spent the money, where mostly it's been for wars, unnecessary wars, in my opinion. Obviously, this is where it gets the liberal aspect definitely comes in. But it's, you know, as in the sense that being pro-diplomacy is a lot better than being more military intervention, because, you know, a lot of money being spent on wars could help our own economy, could help our own national security, our national guard, and beefing up our national borders as well. So I think we need to focus in on that rather than intervening in other people's lives and intervening in other countries' lives. That's a personal opinion of mine.
Right. Well, do you have any specific policies, let's say minimum wage or rent controls? Do you have anything to say about those policies?
What was the other one besides minimum wage, sorry?
The rent controls. You know, in many cities, small government actually controls the rent. They put a ceiling on how high the rent can be, regardless of how much the investor has spent.
For the minimum wage, I feel that, you know, obviously a socialist like Bernie Sanders has pushed for a higher minimum wage. And it will help, obviously, the living conditions of individuals in this country, and it makes sense. But in this country, even if you look at, in essence, the the jobs, you know, how many people are not actually taking up jobs, right? We always have a conversation, hey, the unemployment rate has fallen.
But just picking up an arbitrary number.
People don't understand there's plenty of jobs to be had, to be taken. It's just people aren't willing to do those jobs because they might have certain accolades or have certain things that they like, oh, I don't want to take up this job. I have skills for this job. So it's a little bit of everything, in essence, to that.
Well, you mentioned, you know, less government control. So in essence, if the government is just picking an arbitrary number, okay, you know what, it's 2018, and this is your arbitrary number, and this is the minimum wage, I do not think that makes sense, because if it's statewide, there are some rural areas where the cost of living is very low, and then you have urban areas, and then you have uber urban areas where it's really, really expensive to live. But once again, it has to be based on supply and demand.
Right.
So let's say if the minimum wage is $15, but I am fresh out of high school and I am looking for a summer job. Now nobody is going to hire me because I do not have a skill set, and nobody wants to pay me that higher minimum wage. Where do I go to get a job?
I guess that's where the priorities lie, right? What I mean by that is, by 2050, there's actually a study that shows that 90% of the population will be in urban settings.
Right.
Obviously, it's not cheap to live in urban settings, right? It's rural, urban, suburban areas a little bit cheaper to stay, but 90% of the population concentrated in cities would obviously mean that the minimum wage should be a little higher. But that's on the person. You know, if they're willing to move out there,
right,
they have to find jobs that have higher.
But the government should not dictate that. Mm-hmm. Because whenever there's a rise in minimum wage, the people who get hurt the most are the unskilled laborers. Because if I'm an unskilled worker and somebody is paying me $10 because that's what's perceived as a good pay for somebody who does not have any skills, now all of a sudden there's a government mandated jump in minimum wage, it goes to $15, and the person is more likely to hire somebody who has the skills. So yes, there will be a greater demand for those who have the skills, but for unskilled workers, it's actually worse. And then those unskilled workers go around and they stand in line for welfare. Now who's going to pay for the welfare? The tax base.
Right. And honestly, if you've seen in the news recently, Amazon has actually set the minimum wage to $15.
Right, but it's not government mandated.
People do not know is that they're cutting out benefits, stock options, 401k plan of the employees. You know, they're actually taking away that, which would probably, you know, bring back the $15 minimum wage that they've set actually lower, because they're taking away all these benefits from their employees.
Right.
But it's just, you know, what it is, is that us having these conversations, there has to be a certain level of trust that needs to be regained.
Right.
People don't really trust the government as much, if you've seen over the years. You know, how much do you trust the government? If you've seen studies, it's been lower and lower every year.
Right.
So that's why I feel as if...
But I believe the political efficacy has gone down as well. People are not as much interested in investing their time in researching policy and researching politicians. In essence, our elections have turned into a celebrity contest. I feel like, is the president likable? Would you go have beer with this president? You know, those are not the questions that should be asked. It's a matter of our future. It's a matter of our children's future,
right,
of our country's future. I think we need to research our policies better. And then a lot of times we try to connect the two. We do not want to separate the politician, their personality, from the policy, even if it's the right policy. But because we do not like the president or any other leader at a personal level, we sort of just reject the policy at the same time, although the policy would be good for our country.
Right. And I completely agree with you. I mean, but if you really look, the reason why the distrust has been there is because if you look at the Republican Party, for instance, like I mentioned, I lean a little bit right more than I do left.
Right.
It's fragmented into 3 or 4 different parties. You got the Tea Party, you got the evangelical conservatives, you've got, you know, conservatives that lean every which way on every which different topic that they discuss. But the Republican Party is going to need to, before, you know, people will start looking at the Republican Party, or if they're left or they're right, that party needs to regroup. If you look at the liberals, if you look at Democrats, there's not a lot of fragments within that, within that political group.
But don't you
They're
think that that's a
very
scary
starting
thing
with
at the same time? Although they see something wrong with their party, but they are not opening their mouths. Don't you think that's a negative aspect of that party? Although I do believe that you have the uber left progressive, they call themselves progressives. Now they are openly calling themselves the socialists at the same time.
Well, I guess one thing I wanted to say about socialism is that it's never worked. What has socialism always led?
Thank you for making those comments.
Never gotten to. It's always been like in communism, right?
Absolutely.
Really think about it, in essence. And also, if you think in socialism, people always want to preach about Denmark or the Scandinavian countries. But people don't understand is that those countries, first of all, the population of Finland is probably that of not even California, maybe even Pennsylvania.
Right.
You know, Finland or Sweden or Denmark.
Absolutely.
Norway, these countries, but people don't understand this. These populations are 99% homogeneous.
Correct.
What that means is that ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ, you know, ਜੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਇੱਕ town ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਹੋਣ 99%, so they're willing to help each other out.
Gee.
In these communities, because the population isn't as diverse, they're willing to pay higher taxes because they're willing to help out their own people, albeit a smaller population. Here in the United States, you know, diversity is a beautiful thing, which is what this Constitution is built on. You know, diverse thought, diverse group of people, religion, regardless.
Right.
Diversity has also, in essence, I believe, been able to hinder the ability for certain things to get passed, because if you look at now, you know, if you watch CNN or MSNBC, how excited they were to get the House, right? If you got the House, we're going to blockade whatever bill is passed or whatever bill is doing their work. You're just going to block it right away. Don't even care, you know. But this country, the government has to do a better job of coming together and looking for what's good for this country. Like how other countries do. However, politics has been given this bad reputation because people, the government, have not been willing to help their own people and not willing to pass certain types of bills.
Right. Well, the Founding Fathers did view the political parties as factions that could one day hinder our ability to progress as a nation. And just like you mentioned, people are more worried about their personal agendas, especially the single issue voters. They are not looking at the bigger picture. They only look at one issue and they hold it dear, and they go all the way left or they go all the way right. They are more loyal to the political party or their candidate rather than looking at the position that God has offered to our nation. We are the greatest nation on this earth, and we have the ability to be role model for the rest of the world, but a lot of these people are not paying attention to that. There are a lot of positive things that we can bring into this world. We are a diverse economy. We have the diverse demographics. We are the largest economy. We are a pretty big nation, even if you look at our land mass.
And I agree with you 100%. You know, it's one of those things, the more we screw around with, go off of exactly what the Constitution says.
Correct.
Go off of exactly what it has, and, you know, and also on top of that, the more we screw around with things, the more we try to figure things out, the more things that are not going to get accomplished.
Well, although it sounds like a cliche, but you know the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. And it's worked for, what, 350 years now? You know, it's just one of those things, you know. I think, but personally, I feel as if you've taken any type of political ideology test on the internet, more and more youth are aligning towards the same part of the spectrum. There's new terms for this, new enterprisers or new age conservatives, or you know, who believe in economically less government. You know,
right. Well, I would like to go ahead and stop you here because I want to hear all about it. I want to hear what you just mentioned in detail and share that with our youth viewers as well as middle-aged and older groups. I would like to go ahead and take a short break, and then we'll go in detail.
Hi, my name is Kuldeep Gill. I'm broker of Sky Realty. The reason we are so successful because clients trust us. I've been doing this my whole life. My team is my wife, my office manager, and my agents. We look forward to earn your business, and we do speak your language. Thank you.
My show my life ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਗੱਲ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਸੀਗੀ conservatism ਦੀ. We were talking about conservatism and you just coined a new term. What, Mehtab Singh, I would like to hear from your mouth. What was the term once again that more and more of the youth, not just the Sikh youth, but American youth in general, is aligning with them?
It's new age enterprises or just enterprises, I think it's.
So tell us in detail, what does that encompass?
Well, they're pretty much free market capitalists. And you shouldn't intervene, like I said, in affairs, more young people, rather focus on what's going on in their nation, keeping things basic, like you had mentioned, adhere to the Constitution, the more change you enact, the worse things get. But socially, they're pretty liberal. In essence, what they're trying to say is that it's not my place to tell how people live their lives when it pertains to their sexual orientation or even the tricky topic of abortion.
Correct.
They believe people who have to take care of the kid should ultimately be the one that's making the decision. Less military intervention. So basically, what it is that they've been more economically focused.
Okay.
Socially, they're liberal, and when it comes to foreign affairs, they'd rather not meddle in other people's issues and problems, even though we're seen as the police of the world, as we term it. But they'd rather us bring that back and fix our roads, because there's a lot of things that need to be done in our own little country.
What is conservatism to you?
Well, for me, everyone has their own views. It's someone, obviously, we keep saying it is someone that is a free market capitalist, and keeping things basic. It's as if many times you watch any type of the ABC, CNBC, CNN, it's as if the more change, how we can, group more and more types of different people, or how can we figure out ways to help the entire world. It's just too much to handle. I'd rather just adhere to what the Constitution says, and focus in on our country. And many times people say that, hey, that's like nationalist. You're a nationalist for trying to be that way. Well, actually, it's not, because the beauty about the United States is that you can preach about being proud American, everything in this democracy.
I would like to go ahead and shift the focus over to the Sikh youth side now. We have already discussed the conservative policies, American politics in general. What do you expect from the Sikh youth? Or are they meeting your expectations? Do you believe they're doing enough as being American and Sikh at the same time in the political field?
Well, the thing about Sikh youth, before I answer your question, is if you look post 9/11, Sikhs have been the most confused and misinterpreted group of people in the Western Hemisphere.
Right.
We've been labeled as everything but Sikhs.
Correct.
Heck, even if you look in India, under the Indian Constitution, we're still labeled as Hindus. When the whole world recognizes us as a different religion, right?
Right.
So, if you stick to small thinking, as if, politics, etc., we're actually doing a major injustice to ourselves.
Right.
But the good news is even if we've been smaller in numbers, wherever we go, we have found a way to positively contribute to our society. All in World War I and II, obviously in Great Britain. Now you see, even in Canada, the defense minister, Sachin Singh, and in politics as well, Jagmeet Singh. And if you look here in the United States, the Attorney General, and you look at the governor of Hoboken, they're small in numbers, yet they've always found a way to succeed. That's just a drive that us as Sikhs have.
And why is that? Is it specific to what they're being taught by Guru Granth Sahib, that they go out and have this urge to serve humanity? Do you think that has any part to play?
Yes. I mean, if you look at the basic tenets of the Sikh faith, it's built on equality amongst all.
Yes.
How good life is lived if you're a part of community, living honestly and caring for others.
Right.
Sikhism is a way of life in essence. It's more than a religion, it's actually a way of life.
Right.
And the best way in today's world to enhance those practices is to be involved in communities in whatever way you can. And that in itself shows how progressive how progressive it is. It doesn't, everywhere, if you look in history, we will always stand up for what we believe is right, but as a Sipahi, somebody who's saintly but also a warrior at the same time, somebody who's willing to stand up, but is also willing to preach goodness amongst all. So that's just something that we are distilled from a very young age.
Right. Well, where we have been encouraged to be part of society, whatever society we live in, to be a productive member of that community, but at the same time, from what I feel like our guru has emphasized, to develop a personal relationship with God. So there is no place for bureaucracy. There's no place for priesthood. The Pai Sahib is there to educate us how to understand Gurbani better, but in the end, it is our own karam, it's our own kirat and it's our own Wand Shakna, Naam Japna, Kirt Karni.
Right, and honestly, if you look, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜਾ ਰਣਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ time ਦੇ ਵੀ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ, Sikhs were a minority.
Correct.
We made up 10%. I don't know how what the percentages is. We made a smaller percentage. ਜਦੋਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜਾ ਰਣਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ, if you look at his time in the Punjabi area that they had, they were a minority. They Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims all lived together. Why? Because it wasn't just, you know, if you're not Muslim. No, I don't want to say anything bad about any dharma. I'm just basing it off of what I've read in the Quran or if I've read in the Bible. If you're Christian, right, then you can't go to heaven.
Right.
If you're Muslim, you know, then it's very important to be, right? And Sikh dharma kehte ki jiti change Sikh bano, jiti change Hindu bano, jiti change Musliman bano. It just tells you to be
change insan bano.
To live and, you know, vicariously through your version of the whatever thing that you worship, you know.
Well, I have truly enjoyed the conversation that we had tonight. I'm sure our viewers liked your views as well. But last but not least, I would like to go ahead and share a message with our Sikh youth. What do you want? What is one thing that you would like to share with our youth?
Well, I feel as if, you know, Sikhs, the youth have been steered away from politics because of our parents, or, you know, we're so stuck in the small thinking of the politics and the Guru Gar, oh my goodness, look what's going on. I want the youth to know that there's more to it.
Right.
You know, there are plenty of people who have paved the way for us, mostly our parents.
Right.
Now it is our time to build a good foundation, to have our voices heard. And the only way I feel as if is to do that is to get into politics. You know, have conversations, possibly create a blueprint of how to be successful in politics and how to play a vital role in our communities.
ਮਤਾਬ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ, ਸੁਣ ਕੇ ਬੜੀ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਹੋਈ ਕਿ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦੀ ਸਿਫਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਮਾਂ-ਬਾਪ ਨੇ ਬੜੀ ਸਖਤ ਮਿਹਨਤ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਮੁਕਾਮ ਤੇ ਲਿਆਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਔਰ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਜੋ ਭੈਣ ਭਰਾ ਨੇ, ਸਾਡਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਯੂਥ ਹੈ, ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਤਸ਼ਾਹਿਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਬੈਟਰ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ. I love that way of thinking, and thank you once again for coming online and sharing your views with our audience. And once again, I would like to go ahead and request the viewers that if you missed live, you can download the app MyTV/radio. You can also go to Facebook and go to our page, like our page, follow it. We're also available on Instagram. Until then, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.